into space, but no more than anyone who spends so much time alone. How did you do? Not too swell. The day before, driving back from the hardware store in nearby Concord, Della had fretted about the shade of paint they chose. Was it bright enough? Maybe they should take it back. It didn't look as cheerful as it had on the paint sample in the store. Oh, what a waste of money. Finally, Kathy said, "Della, you're getting anxious again." That was all it took. Della's expression eased, as if sprinkled with fairy dust. "I know I am," she said. "You have to tell me when I get like that." On the porch, Kathy sipped her drink and said, "I wouldn't worry about it, Della. Tests like that would make anybody nervous." A few days later, Kathy went back to Detroit. She didn't hear any more about the tests. Then in September, Della called to say that Dr. Sutton had arranged a house call and had asked Bennett, Della's oldest son, to be in attendance. "If she wants Bennett to drive on up here," Della said, "it's probably bad news." The day of the meeting, a Monday, Kathy waited for Della to call. When she finally did, her voice sounded excited, almost giddy. Kathy assumed the doctor had granted her a clean bill of health, but Della didn't mention the test results. Instead, in a mood of almost delirious happiness, she said, "Dr. Sutton, couldn't get over how cute we've got my house looking. I told her what a wreck it was when I moved in and how you and I have a project every time you visit, and she couldn't believe it. She thought it was just darling." Maybe Della couldn't face the news, or had already forgotten it. Either way, Kathy felt afraid for her. It was left for Bennett to get on and tell her the medical details. These he delivered in a dry, matter-of-fact tone. Bennett works for an insurance company in Hartford, calculating the probabilities of illness and death on a daily basis, and this was maybe the reason. "The doctor says my mom can't drive anymore, or use the stove. She's going to put her on some medicine, supposed to stabilize her, for a while. But basically the upshot is she can't live on her own." "I was just out there last month and your mom seemed fine," Kathy said. "She just gets anxious, that's all." There was a pause before Bennett said, "Yeah, well, anxiety's part of the whole deal." What could Kathy do from her position? She was not only out in the Midwest, but a kind of oddity or interloper in Della's life. Kathy and Della have known each other for 40 years. They met when they both worked at the College of Nursing. Kathy was 30 at the time, recently divorced. She'd moved back in with her parents so that her mother could look after Mike and John while she was at work. Della was in her 50s, a suburban mother who'd lived in a fancy house near the lake. She'd gone back to work not because she was desperate for money, like Kathy, but because she had nothing to do. Her 2 oldest boys had already left home. The youngest, Robbie, was in high school. Normally they wouldn't have come in contact at the college. Kathy worked downstairs in the bursar's office, while Della was the executive secretary to the dean. But one day in the cafeteria, Kathy overheard Della talking about Weight Watchers, raving about how easy the program was to stick to, how you didn't have to starve. Kathy had just begun to date again. Another way of putting it was she was sleeping around. In the wake of her divorce, she'd been seized by a desperation to make up for lost time. She was as reckless as a teenager, doing it with men she barely knew, in the back seats of cars, or on the floors of carpeted vans while parked on city streets outside houses where good Christian families lay peacefully sleeping. In addition to the sporadic pleasures she took from these men, Kathy was seeking some kind of self-correction, as if the men's butting and thrusting might knock some sense into her, enough to keep her from marrying anyone like her ex-husband ever again. Coming home after midnight from one of these encounters, Kathy took a shower. After getting out, she stood before the bathroom mirror, appraising herself with the same objective eye she later brought to renovating houses. What could be fixed? What camouflaged? What did you have to live with and ignore? She started going to Weight Watchers. Della drove her to